want to talk about creatine today. So I was at a gym class this week, and one of the ladies there asked me to remind her what I'd said about creatine. So I told her 5 grams a day for muscle, and there's increasing research on higher doses for cognition. I said start low and build up. One of the other ladies turned to the exercise physiologist who was teaching the class and asked what he thought about it. And he said he doesn't really use creatine because he doesn't drink enough water. He said you need at least an extra litre a day with 5 grams of creatine. And in my head I thought, I don't actually think that's right. But what I actually said was, well, as long as you're hydrated in a normal way, you'll be fine. But I didn't push back any harder than that because I hadn't checked. I'm not going to challenge someone in front of a room full of people on something I haven't verified. So I came home and I checked. And I want to walk you through what I found because the answer's interesting, but also because honestly, the biggest story is how this stuff spreads. Here's the thing about this exchange. He's qualified. He wasn't showing off. He genuinely believed what he was saying. And it sounded sensible, which is exactly why it travels. And it's not the first time I've come across this. A while back I saw a gym influencer with a big following. He was posting from a hospital bed. He was saying he'd got kidney stones and it was from too much creatine. He was warning people that creatine raises your creatinine and it causes stones and it can damage your kidneys. And he was framing it as dangerous. So now you've got confident advice coming at you from an exercise physiologist in a gym class and from an influencer in a hospital with a wristband on. If you're a woman, you're in your 40s or 50s, and you're trying to work out whether creatine's worth it, what are you supposed to do with that? This is what I mean when I say the problem isn't the lack of information. It's that there's too much of it, delivered confidently, and a lot of it's wrong or half right, even from people with letters after the name. So let's go through this properly. So let's break it down. What's the myth about the kidney stones? A 2025 systematic review and a meta-analysis in BMC nephrology looked at the research between creatine and kidney function. What they found was a small rise in blood creatinine and no meaningful change in glomerular filtration rates, which is the actual measure of how your kidneys are filtering. So why does creatinine go up? Because creatinine is the breakdown product of creatine. If you take more creatine in, you produce more creatinine. It's a byproduct of normal metabolism. It's not damage. It's a bit like nitrogen waste going up when you eat more protein. More waste being processed doesn't mean the system's failing. But here's the genuinely useful bit, and this is the part I want you to take away. That rise can look like a red flag on a blood test if nobody knows you're taking creatine. There's actual medical literature of doctors misreading it. So if you're having bloods done, tell your GP that you take creatine. It takes 5 seconds and it can save you a scare. Now the kidney stones claim. Stones are formed from calcium oxalate, uric acid, and calcium phosphate. Creatine isn't a precursor to any of those things. There's no established mechanism by which creatine could have caused stones to form, and no controlled evidence showing it does. What I'd also say about that influencer is that bodybuilding at that level usually involves a lot of things at once. Very high protein, deliberate dehydration before competition, anti-inflammatories, sometimes even anabolic steroids. And all of those things have documented kidney risk. Picking creatine out of that pile and blaming it isn't science. It's a guess with a big audience. And to be clear, if you already have kidney disease, that's a different conversation. You need to talk to your GP. But that's true of a lot of things. And it isn't the reason for everybody else to be frightened off it. Now let's look at the water. The International Society of Sports Nutrition position says the claim that creatine causes dehydration or cramping isn't supported by the evidence. If anything, the research points the other way. Creatine draws water into your muscle cells, and that may actually help you regulate your temperature and reduce cramping. So where does the extra litre of water come from? I think it comes from a reasonable sounding misunderstanding. People know creatine pulls water into muscles, so they assume it's pulling water out of everywhere else, and that you'd need to top it back up. I couldn't find a study anywhere that establishes a specific extra volume you need to drink It's a number that's got repeated until it sounded official. There is a real reason to use more liquid though, and it's got nothing to do with your kidneys. Creatine monohydrate doesn't dissolve well in cold water. If you tip 5 or 10 grams into a small glass, a lot of it sits at the bottom as grit. And that grit is most commonly the cause of bloating and gut discomfort. People often blame the creatine itself, but it's not. So, use a decent volume of liquid. Warm water dissolves it a fair bit better. Split your dose to 5 grams instead of 110 gram. And actually stir it. It's chemistry, not hydration. If you feel confused about nutrition right now, that's not because you're being slow or not trying hard enough. The information environment is genuinely a mess. And some of the messiest bits come from qualified people, not just the influencers. You don't need to become an expert in all of it. So back to the gym class. He wasn't reckless. He was passing on something that sounded sensible, and he believed it. And that's what makes this hard. It's not that there are villains out there who are deliberately misleading you. It's that confident, well-meant, slightly wrong advice sounds exactly the same as good advice when you're standing in a gym trying to decide. And I'll be honest, I didn't challenge him properly on the day because I wasn't sure enough either. I went home and I did the reading first. And I'd rather do that than be the person who's loudly confident and wrong. What I want you to take from this is that it really isn't about the creatine. It's this. You need someone who'll do the reading and tell you what the evidence actually says, including when the honest answer is, we actually don't know yet. Science, not shame. That's what I'm about. I do just want to clarify, this information is general in nature and it doesn't replace individual medical advice. So if you've got any persistent or concerning symptoms, please speak to your GP or a qualified health provider.